Let's talk about exhibiting at a comic book convention. I've been exhibiting for many years and have had the opportunity to try many different layouts and sell different products and do different things to try to get customer attention at those conventions. So some of you may be thinking, okay, do you have some advice for me? I'm a new exhibitor and I'd like to figure things out. Or maybe I just need to freshen up what I'm doing and try to get more attention. Well, let's talk about it. More recently, this is what I did just not long ago here at WonderCon. This is my layout. I have a table in the back where I display some of my art and two large bookshelves up front to share my books. I like this layout a lot. It encouraged people to come and enter the space and spend time looking at the different things I have for sale. So, as a as an exhibitor, I think number one of those things that you need to do is have some variety. Now, you can see I have some art, books, and merchandise, and I think that's a good mixture of different things that you might want to have for sale for your customers. So as you're thinking about that, try to have a variety so that you can also have different price points. And that would be another one of those tips, is to have things that are at different prices. So what do I mean by that? So basically, what you're doing is you're trying to pick things that different customers can afford. So you might have things that are $5 items, $10 items, 20 or $30 items, or maybe even 50 or $100 items, depending on what you're selling. So for me, what that looks like is um, I like to have books and most of my small art and merchandise in the $10, $5, $10 range. And then I like to have larger prints in the 20 or $30 range. And then I like to sell originals for 50 or $100, or not just originals, but also like framed or canvas printed artwork more expensive. And the ratio is that I like to keep things where I have a larger amount of inexpensive items and a small amount of the expensive ones. So again, so that there is a range for customers to choose from. Also, I think it's a really good sales technique to give deals. So, for example, let's say I have three books. I'm sorry, I have books for $10, but three books you can buy for 25. Or the same works for prints. For a $10 print, you can buy one print for 10 or three prints for 25. Or if you're buying in the $20 range, you know, one print for 20, three prints for 50, and so on. That kind of a discount encourages sales, and I've seen it over the years work very well. Another thing I like to do is have those, again, those cheaper items like buttons and stickers. And I also do original hand-drawn cards in that more expensive range so that people can pick from the things that they like. And that brings up another discussion. What about fan art? Well, I definitely do fan art when I set up my displays. I like to do a lot of fan art because I love working and drawing with these pop culture characters and so on. What I am always sure to do, however, is when I sell a piece of fan art, it is a limited edition. So there are not multiple copies, and it's something that I personally drew and I made. Everything at my table is something I made. I have seen lots of people at different conventions that you can tell are swiping artwork from other people. And I just always certify that what I make is mine, at least original to me drawing the character. So it's not something that I've swiped. And that's really important to me for my own integrity. But again, I am doing fan art, so I am drawing characters that don't belong to me. Now, some people, there are different questions about doing that. But personally, I think on a small quantity, on a limited edition basis, it's something that encourages people to visit and get to look at my work. Of course, I always have original characters, original stories, and original books that I've made that are my personal characters and properties that I like to sell. Now, when preparing for a convention, another tip for you is to think to think big, but also to don't extend yourself too far. The very first convention I ever did, I way over prepared and had way too much stuff. And so I took in a couple cartloads of things to sell and didn't sell very much. And so I had all this stuff that I had to take home. And you need to be realistic to kind of research the market, see what it's like at a convention, watch and observe what other people are doing, and recognize that you're not going to sell out. Hard truth, but you're not going to sell out right away. So be careful and practical when you're thinking about how much to spend and what to prepare for your table, and be objective. So that doesn't mean bring 1,000 books to the table because that's just not going to happen. But bring 50, 25, 50 of an item, and that seems to be reasonable. Also, don't kill yourself trying to make too many different things. Sometimes in the beginning, you have to start kind of small and just build on what you have and kind of test the market and see what people like and see what people are interested in. Now, when it comes to style and art style, that also helps identify you as a creator. On the other hand, in my case, I actually work in a couple styles. And so I try to match my style to the type of product I'm selling. So when I do original art, I'm open to any style that I like, whether it's painting or drawing or coloring or using markers. I do a variety of things with those different mediums, and so my style changes. But when I do posters and prints, a lot of times I'm working in vector art because vector art is another one of my favorite styles. And so I do a lot of posters in vector art because it's just one of my favorite things to do. And then when it comes to my children's books or comics, I have a cartooning style, which isn't quite as realistic, but it's more cartoon-like with cartoon features and a cartoon style. And so I would say that you could categorize my art in three different categories. And so I try to be consistent for my customers by presenting the art in a consistent style for the product or the medium. Don't know if that makes sense. Makes sense in my head, but honestly, people are going to come to your table and they're going to decide what they like. So what I want them to like and how I present it is my best guess. Some other things to think about. As you prepare to start showing at a convention, you want to look at things like attendance and expense. And is it a good idea to spend a whole lot of money on a huge exhibit space or a small table to try out or to get on a waiting list? I suggest in the very beginning that you start with some art fairs, do some local events, start with maybe some smaller convention spaces in the beginning to get used to it, to warm up to it. And then as you become more experienced, you'll be able to apply to one of the larger shows and I think have a better time at it. Also, you're going to have to spend a little money on your setup. So you're going to need to have some banners, some tablecloths. You're going to need to have some pricing posters, different things like that to promote you. And of course, you're going to need business cards and giveaway items that people can take away and remember your name. So, in some way, you want to give something or create something that engages with your customer in person, but also after the fact. So I've always been a big proponent of giving things like cards and bookmarks, sometimes small stickers, things that go with you, with your customer or just a visitor. They get to keep, but it has your name so they can find you again. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I have tried other things in the past, like signing people up with a QR code to a newsletter or an email list, other things like that, which can work. But honestly, it's a lot of work, so I have neglected that in more recent years. And I just been using my web address as a way to promote my social media or my e-commerce page and so on. So my last bit of advice to you is the value of doing a convention and an in-person appearance is that you get to connect with people on a one-on-one basis. Working online through social media or other areas where you promote yourself online is obviously a good business. There are a lot of successful artists that do that. But I personally enjoy interacting with people, and it's a real, uh, I don't know, it's a real fun thing to have someone come up to you in person and say, I like this, I love this, I'm going to buy it. Um, or I've read that book It's really fun, or my kids like that, or whatever. Over the years, it's been really fun to get those kinds of compliments, and it really feeds that artistic ego. On the other hand, I have been at shows that were, not well attended and where we didn't sell very much. And it was a big disappointment. And that also takes another whack at your ego. And you start to feel like, wow, nobody likes me. Nobody likes my stuff. So you kind of got to develop a little bit of a thick skin. Um, as an artist, I did not get into this business because I enjoyed sales. Far from it. I cannot stand sales. I don't like sales. Um, I didn't get into this business because I wanted to, you know, um, make merchandise and things like that. Those are all means to an end. The end is I would like people to know about my things and to enjoy them. I want to entertain people with my art. I also want to tell good stories that people enjoy. That's why I want to do this. So the means to an end is I need a website, I need a in-person convention appearance, I need social media, I need YouTube, I need a variety of things to get the word out so people get to know my things. Um, and that's something you have to accept. And you have to kind of flip that switch in your mind and say, okay, I'm going to be sales Patrick for a little while. I'm going to sell this, tell people about it because, this story, this art lives in my head. I am very familiar with it. This Princess Leia art or, this Wonder Woman art. It's something that I look at every day and I think about and I've created and I'm very familiar with it. Nobody else is, and nobody knows why I made it. So don't be afraid to tell someone what it's about and why you make what you make and to tell the story that you want to share with your audience. And hopefully that makes a connection. All right. So good luck with your ideas on starting a convention business or selling at art fairs or craft fairs. Again, be modest in your expectations in the beginning. So don't overspend on a lot of setup. Bring at least a variety of maybe 10 items to sell at your first convention. And again, make a range so you have low price, medium price, and expensive items so that people have some choices to make and see what happens. It's basically fishing. You're out there fishing with your work to see what people respond to and what makes them bite and come back for more. Good luck. Let me know how it goes and enjoy selling.